Get yourself in. Can't factor the outer limits. Gimmicks rockabye. Us to sleep. While we fight tired eyes from clothes. But they closing up shop. Closing up shop. And your money just blowing in the wind, blowing in the wind, the wind, blowing and blowing in the wind. Blowing in the wind, controlled. Blowing by regular weather, controlled. Weather non-stand. Face to face and believe our own intentions. The revealing has started, and the sky is opening. Who's that? Who's that? Black angel wings. Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Black angel wings. Angel uplifted from darkness. Darkness. Playing the bass of all solitude. Playing the bass of all solitude. Well, I was quiet. I was quiet for too long. I was quiet. I was quiet. I was quiet for too long. Singing your song and ain't nothing come out. Nothing come out. Quiet. And ain't nobody rise out. Ain't nobody rise up. Quiet. Quiet. Harmonic darkness. Where were you when you first heard? When you first heard? Ghost in your heart. Who put it there? Who put it there? Watch out for the gaze who's watching. Who put it there? In the first place. In the first place. Who put it there? In the first place. Put you there. In the first place. In the first place. You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You are now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and I got my good brother right here. Brother Ra, how you doing?
Brother, you know what it is. Keep my eyes to the sky and ears to the street. That's about it, man. What about yourself?
Hey man, no complaints here, man. No complaints here, man. Just, grinding every day. Try to put some different things together and stuff like that, man. Try to take everything to the next level.
Yes, sir.
You know?
I'm right with you.
Indeed. But, without getting too far, I want to remind you all to make sure you like. And if you're not already subscribe to this channel. And make sure you share this episode and this channel and everything like that with all your people and all your social medias and all that or whatnot. And I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Caliprucia Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to the patrons out there. Shout out to y'all. We did something real, did our episode on Monday or whatnot. We just talked about Vladimir Putin. You understand what I'm saying? And from a four pillars perspective, and looked at a couple things like that. So if you hadn't already checked that out on your Patreon, go check that out or whatnot. But make sure that you follow us on Instagram. You can follow us at COSMICCONVO on Instagram. From there, you can get to all the different outlets that we're on, different things like that. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Either via Facebook or IG with the tag of Shechem Ra, or you can hit me up at Caliprucia Astrology at gmail.com. As of July, you're going to be able to hit me up via calipruciaastrology.com. So that will be the new link coming up very soon. Finally, long awaited, much overdue, much anticipated. But yeah, you'll be able to go online at that link and all kind of goodies, newsletters, videos, treats of all kinds for you there. So definitely long awaited, but well worth it.
Indeed, man. Indeed, that's what's good, man, or whatnot. So yeah, man, we locked in. It's episode 7 or whatnot. We cranking them out. Seem like this season's moving fast. Got a lot of new things going. And shout out to everybody who's been tuning in to the podcast on all the other podcasts on the Push It Forward network. Or whatnot. We got another one that's going to drop tomorrow morning, the Single Dad podcast. So be on the lookout for that. Or whatnot. It might be a little delayed. And to think about it, just like with the other podcasts, it'll only be probably available on Apple Podcasts first because it's the first episode, different things like that. So you'll see it trickle in throughout the day and throughout the weekend. So definitely be out on the lookout for that. But yeah, man, we're here at this episode. Last episode, man, I've been getting a lot of great feedback on that. What about what you've been hearing about that last episode, Rob?
Yeah, I heard a lot of good feedback on that. People were actually talking about how, it's coincidental that there was some talk about Pluto here recently in the news. So, nothing is coincidence. Everything's by divine providence. But Yeah, definitely got some good feedback. I enjoyed. I even listened to it a couple times, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, go out and go check that episode 6 out if you want to know kind of how Pluto plays his hand. Check it out.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, man, because again, like I said in that last episode, you're not gonna find this from anyone else. And especially from a Jyotish perspective. I mean, it's a. I only know one other astrologer, or it's a couple of them, but I know one in particular that's spends a lot of time with the outer planets and stuff like that. But the way the angle that we hit it and stuff like that, you're not going to find that out there. So definitely soak that up, listen to it a couple times and stuff like that. You like I said, we on all the audio outlets, as well. So definitely check us out on there or whatnot. And I hadn't announced it here yet, but we're on Amazon too. We're on Amazon. I discovered or whatnot. Sometimes you put these stuff out there, you put them in there, and they review you and they take a little time to put you up there. So we are on Amazon as well. So definitely wherever you listen to podcasts at, we're there. So wherever you Android, iPhone, we're there or whatnot. So you can catch us anywhere when you're on a plane, you're driving. You can get it in, listen to all those back episodes and stuff like that, man. And last episode for sure is one of those episodes that you might want to listen to a couple times or whatnot, But moving along. Before we get into today's topic, I don't really have much questions right now. Ra, you got something that you want to talk about before we jump in?
No, let's just dive right on in.
Okay. Well, as I always promote on here that if you want to make show suggestions, if you want to ask questions, the way that you do that is through our through Patreon, right? And this particular show was one of our suggestions from Patreon. So big up to the patrons out there. Whatnot, we always we come up with a plan and we leave certain slots open for the patrons to recommend shows, and that's what they do. So this is one of those for this season. So shout out to y'all or whatnot. But for those who tuning in to us on Instagram and everything like that, you saw the cover art or whatnot of a very interesting character. Very interesting scientists in the world. Like I tell y'all, I do, I'm a, here we go right there. I'm a film and media entrepreneur. But my day situation and my actual, specific training is as a civil engineer. So I came across this gentleman quite often or whatnot, especially when I was, getting into my high level physics and electromagnetism and all that stuff like that. He's so famous that he has a unit, a unit of magnetism labeled after him. If those of you who've ever taken those level of science, you know that magnetism can be measured in Teslas.
Oh,
Right?
I thought it was measured in gauze. I thought it was measured in gauze.
There's a couple of them, but Tesla's is a popular one. Yep, it's a couple of measurements.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah. But he has one of them, and he's also inspired, of course, by the name Tesla Automotives, right? So, we're going to talk about the very interesting character, Nikola Tesla. So shout out to him. Shout out to physics, shout out to science, all that right there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so Nikola is Definitely an interesting chart, to say the least. I've never seen one like it as far as the patterns are concerned. The placements are, as we're going to see, very peculiar and very reminiscent of what he was about. And so, starting off, right and exact, we look at the ascendant, and there is some speculation, around the ascendant. He has a very peculiar birth time, by the way. It's midnight, 1 minute after midnight, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's a real kind of what it. It's one of those times you really got to really just gauge properly and look at it. You know, midnight, noon, those are kind of times, 6 a.m., those are times that we really kind of take a step back and say, I don't know, right? But for all intents and purposes, right, it seems that the chart does fit fairly well with that specific time. So he was born in Croatia in the 1800s, 1856, right? And
Correct.
so July 10th, right? Date of birth, which puts his sun sign in Gemini. Now, we don't go off sun sign right off because, right, that is something that is a part of us, but it doesn't really give us the baseline. The ascendant is what gives the baseline, and his ascendant seemingly is Aries, right? And when I say seemingly, it does fit fairly well when you analyze it from a long term perspective.
Yeah.
Aries ascendants can be impetuous. We know, right? It can be youthful, vigorous. There's almost an innocence to Aries ascendant to some degree, right? The naivety of life, the ability to face life from a very um, unassuming perspective that nothing can seemingly get in your way, right? That's just the Aries kind of motto, if you will. Laugh now, cry later type disposition, right? Right.
Yeah.
And as you can, when you do research studies on Tesla, they say he was a very kind of live by the seat of your pants type of individual.
Mm.
And, you know, Aries is a sign that is, for all intents and purposes, really doesn't have a fear factor. You know, they hit their head. In fact, Aries is a sign for the head. So, hitting their head or making mistakes is something that they're not, really concerned over. And this disposition it did do him well. It served him well because if you're dealing with electricity, you can't really be timid, right?
You know what? I got a better picture to even um, prove that sentiment or whatnot. Because he definitely,
Right?
yeah.
You know, sitting there with volts that could fry you, in an instant, you know, in a very calm, relaxed demeanor, shows a very strong willed or strong nerved individual, right? Nerves of steel, as they say.
Hmm.
And so, the ascendant lord is prominent in that. Yes, Aries. Yes, he can be impetuous. Yes, he can be headstrong and determined. But that ascendant lord Mars, right?
Yeah.
It
You see
sits in
that
the
right there.
sixth house with K2. Oh, look at that! Yeah, look at that. That's a monstrous contract. Oh, look at those sparks flying out, right?
And he's
Most folk, and he's reading a book, right? Like it's nothing, right? But he had
yeah.
a surety of himself that that he wasn't going to get fried. He wasn't going to get shocked. That kind of courage is really what Aries displays. But the other part of it is that the ascendant Lord is in the sixth house, and that can create an individual that is definitely headstrong and fearless as well, right? Sixth house is a house of fighting, right? Of combatants, of taking charge, right? Of handling obstacles, of overcoming enemies. And so, fear is an enemy, and he obviously had a disposition to overcome it to some degree. The next big thing that really kind of takes off with this is that particular ascendant Lord Mars sitting with K2. I mean, K2's at 28 degrees, Mars is at 27 degrees. That in and of itself can make an individual headless, right? But it also makes him to where he gets these kind of epiphanies or downloads, right? As if it's out of nowhere, right? All these ideas and kind of, inspirational processes. Not only to mention the ascendant lord is aspected by Jupiter, right? So that's going to also give wisdom and knowledge and the desire to really expand his awareness, right? To really gain a lot of insight. But here's the strange thing, though, right? This man did not graduate from any school. Right? And you can see that makes sense with the ascendant Lord being, right? With it being Aries, right? Being impetuous, headstrong, being quick witted, right? Taking shortcuts, right? Getting there faster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, Ashwini, the ascendant, is the horseman, right?
Yeah.
Which the need for speed, right? Um, I think I even mentioned one of the movies that they had the little kind of keychain: "Live fast, die young,"
Yeah.
right? That's the motto.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing: he didn't die young, right?
No.
But he
Well,
did live in a way we're gonna see, you know,
maybe not physically.
right, right. But he did definitely live in a way that was befit his ascendant, befit his ascendant. So that K2, right, being in that, and his ascendant lord is in the Rahu K2 axis. That's pretty big. That means his physical body, right, is in the line or energetic in the makeup of Kundalini, of energy, right?
Yeah.
That's what Rahu and K2 can stand for. K2 is that shocking type of energy, right? It can shock you. It can, you know, make your hair stand. I mean, it pop your head off. It's so powerful. K2 is the type of energy that will take you out, right? Rahu takes you out slowly, right? Through attrition, through processes, through right. But K2 is instant, like lightning, right? Just instant. That's it. What happened? He's dead, right? He got hit by lightning. Wasn't much of a conversation after that. So that shows that impetuous, almost carefree kind of energy that he displays or displayed.
Yeah.
The next piece that really talks to his ascendant is his ascendant lord is with the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do, a little research in Wikipedia, right, you read that his mother, right, was responsible for. Well, he credits his mother as being responsible for his photographic memory, right, and the ascendant lord being with the moon. I mean, they say that the man's memory was, insane. He, I think, he spoke 8 different languages, right. Um, to the point where, I mean, it literally, the gift of gab is not. I mean, we're not even talking the gift of gab. The gift of intellect, right, is something that comes with that moon being in that position in that sixth house, in in um, in Virgo. It's in Hasta, right? Hasta moon means that they have a good grasp of things because Hasta is the symbol of Hasta is the hand. One of the symbols is a hand, which means the mind can grasp. So if you think about it, the moon being in Hasta and the hand meaning to hold, that means that moon potentially had the ability to hold images or to have a strong memory, right? And we're going to talk about what strengthened that memory overall here in just a minute. But just considering, right, that particular position gives a lot of mental ability, right? A lot of mental ability. Um, the moon in the sixth house also talks about work, hard work. In fact, his mother, they even stated, was mechanical to some. She had some mechanical ability as well. And Mars is with that moon, which gives that engineering, right, kind of disposition we're talking about earlier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight up. The moon is the mind, and that Mars is an engine, deals with engines, deals with things that, right, are combustible. So, by all means, right, this chart fits very well in regards to his abilities. Um, going further into this, one of the things that I noticed in this chart is all these planets in a Mercury ruled sign. If you check his chart, look at his chart, he's got every single planet except Jupiter in a Mercury ruled sign. That's I haven't seen that before, right? And I've done a lot of charts. I have not seen that placement. That is a very powerful placement, right?
You know the
Very
thing
powerful.
about it. Think about it, man. I mean, just knowing what he's done, and I hate to always be the guy to do this, but if you calculate this chart in tropical, you're not gonna see that, because I think pretty much
No,
all
you're
of these
not.
planets will move. I mean, they all move,
They
but I
do.
mean, change sign.
They go into Cancer. They go into
Yeah,
Cancer. Every last
they go in,
two
and
of
they go
them,
into
three of them
Libra,
go into Cancer. Yep.
and
Yeah. That would not produce. I mean, I'm glad you said that.
yeah,
I'm glad you said that. Excellent, excellent point of conversation, because you wouldn't get that result. Man, you would not get that result. Not at all. Right? Jupiter would actually go. Here's the thing: Jupiter goes into Aries, he becomes Taurus ascendant, but then those planets go into the third house in Cancer. Yeah, it wouldn't work, because those particular planetary forces don't yield what we're about to talk about here in a minute, right?
yeah,
In fact, you know what? Mercury even goes into Cancer at 24 degrees added.
yeah,
They all
yeah, and
go into Cancer.
yeah. He might stay
That
at
doesn't
Aries
that
ascendant, but I think he stays
if
as
we
an
move
Aries
him
ascendant.
24 if we move him 24 degrees, he's Taurus.
Got him at a bit, but nonetheless, the planets move.
Yeah,
They
these
would change. They
planets,
won't. Yeah,
Cancer would not work, right?
yeah,
Cancer would make him timid more, dealing with these electrical forces, right? But check it out, right? So those planets and those all of his planets except Jupiter, right, are in a Mercury ruled sign. And guess what? Jupiter is in a Mercury ruled asterism.
yep.
So it's still connected to every single planet in his chart is connected to Mercury. Every one
Like
of them.
at the
That's
completion of Mercury nakshatras is in Ravati.
yeah,
like
Ravati.
almost
The
like
highest
the
octave of
highest.
Mercury, right?
Yeah,
I mean, Mercury is this man's field of expertise. And those planets being there, I mean, Mercury, Saturn, Venus, Sun in the third house of hands definitely speaks volumes to him handling electricity, right? It's going to get deeper, right? Then Moon, Mars, K2 in Virgo, the sign of perfectionism, right? And this man was a perfectionist. He went to great lengths to master, right, and to study electricity. Um, the thing is that this is such a special placement because of how Mercury is positioned. So one of the things that you begin to learn is that each degree of a chart has a very specific message or intent behind it. And at 6 degrees of Gemini, right, we have what is called the degree of research. And this is what is stated that the degree of research produces. It denotes a scientific and a cautious mind, fond of experiment and research, Whether recognized by authority or not, this native never leaves his work unfinished, nor will he depart from this plan without adding rays for the progressive enlightenment of his people. It is a degree of aviation, mental stability, sharpness of verbal faculty, and the expression of language. And he spoke 8 languages. The native will do very well in German journalism. This is the most fortunate and brilliantly intellectual degree of the zodiac. Now, I want you to think about this for just a second. This planet, which governs pretty much, for all intents and purposes, everything in his chart, is situated at this degree. So that means that everything in his life is, for the most part, funneled to become a scientific genius.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty special, folks. That's pretty special. Every planet in a Mercury ruled sign, with the exception of Jupiter, which is in a Mercury ruled nakshatra or asterism. You don't see that. I challenge anybody to find me a chart with even 5 planets in Mercury ruled signs. 6 planets alone, right? That's a great deal. Right? I mean, that alone speaks volumes. Then placing Mercury at that specific degree just locks everything in. Right? The other thing to consider, right, is that, people in your lives, like we talked about the mother being mechanical, having some mechanical ability, right? The father, according to Wikipedia, and I'm sure their sources, states that the father was a priest. Well, sun is in Gemini, but it is in a portion of Gemini called Purnavalsu. And
Yeah.
Purnavalsu, right, is ruled by Jupiter, which is,
Yep.
right, in fact, one of the professions that is connected to Purnavalsu is priests, right? So by downright connection, son being in that position shows that his father was in a priestly order. Now, the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that, these positions all play a very different role, even though they're all in Mercury ruled signs. They have very different functions, even each and every last one of them. For example, one of the things that Purnavasu is indicative of is that um, they are very giving to a fault, right? They can give away things because they have the power to reacquire things. Now, remember, Purnavasu, right, is ruled by Aditi, the great mother, right? And it literally talks about giving away your treasures. Well, he wanted to give the whole world, right, free electricity, like a mother would to her child.
Yeah.
Right? The world should have free electricity. They even look, folks, the stuff that and it makes you think for just a second. In the 1900s, he had wireless communication. Then cell phones were the concept and idea, and the technology was already there, was already here then.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine, right, what they've confiscated. Imagine what they've come up with. Maybe these cell phones really are the byproduct of Tesla. Right? Right? And we're just kind of there, because remember, they're always 50 to 75 years in advance as far as technology is concerned, the military especially, right?
Oh yeah.
So, you know what I mean? These little things that we're getting now are probably quite old compared to what has already been
I mean,
created in the laboratories, right?
look at that contraption that I showed earlier. I mean, where the heck is that at now?
Right, right.
Where is it at?
I live in Colorado, right? A lot of his experiments were done in Colorado Springs.
Mm.
And you know what I mean? You don't hear. I mean, and think about this, folks. Tesla is responsible for pretty much every electronic device running the way it is in your home at this time, at this point in time. He's responsible for that. Most people don't get what an alternate current and direct current is. Before you had AC/DC, you would have to literally take and attach the item directly to the source of power. There was no switch, right? AC/DC allows you to turn the power off and on. So any switch off and on anything, that's Tesla, right? Think about that, right? Your lights, right? If Tesla didn't do what he did and the process didn't ensue from him, you'd have to take a big metal wire and wrap it around your power source, and then right, the power source would then turn and power your rest of your stuff. That's how it works. So AC/DC allows you to have a switch to control the flow of energy. Right? That's Tesla. So just the basic design of what you deal with on a daily basis he touched the world, is what I'm trying to show you. That's how much power flowed through all those planets. Being in a Mercury ruled sign is so much power. He touched the world for all time. All time, Tesla has touched the planet. We don't think of it from that perspective because we just take things for granted, right? A switch is just a switch, right? No,
Yeah.
a switch is something that allows us a level of convenience that you have no idea of what it does. Computers, nothing could exist without this type of technology. So we are indebted to Tesla and Mercury, right? Right, for the gifts that it channeled through this individual. Now, right, to consider that degree and that planet sitting there controlling everything else, this science is phenomenal.
Yeah, this is man. Big up to the ancestors.
Big up, right?
For
Now check
figuring
it
this
out,
thing
right?
out.
It gets deeper. This is crazy, right? So he had a fascination with Kemet, with ancient Egypt, particularly the pyramids, right? And yes, the pyramids is a pyramid, but the basic structure of a triangle, the number is 3. They said he did everything in threes, in numbers and sets of threes. He was obsessed with it, right? Obsessed with it.
No doubt.
Right. Now, as some of us initiates might know, some of you non-initiates might know. Isn't it kind of strange that Mercury's special number is 3? That's it. Right. Isn't that strange? All those planets under the governance of Mercury, and he has a fascination with the number 3.
And naturally, I mean, shoot, he's Aries ascendant, so of course, also naturally Mercury ruled houses as well.
I'm just saying, like,
either way you slice it.
Sebek's all through this, right? Anpu has put his stamp of approval on him. He was so bad, he said, look, I gave you so much power and knowledge with my stuff, you just skipped school. Right? He skipped school and created AC/DC. Go figure. Right? Now he went to some education, and he did have appreciation for books and learning, because he talks about Edison, how Edison doesn't read and study. Right? But nonetheless, right? And Edison stole a lot of his work. Right? Straight up. I mean, he talked about Edison to where he let you know Edison ain't who you think he is, right?
Well, I mean, Edison,
who he presented himself to be. Go ahead.
Well, Edison got accused of stealing some other people's work too. One of his, young black assistants or helpers. I said he was a real man behind the plan. That's another story for another day.
That's another story, right? You know what I mean? Same thing with Louis Pasteur and Antoine Béchamp, right?
Hmm.
Antoine Béchamp is the person that came up with the. He's prior to Béchamp, or well, he's prior. Béchamp is contemporary with Louis Pasteur, who comes up with the process of pasteurization and the germ theory, right? But there's another theory called bions, right, where the environment is what creates the disease, not a outside foreign agent. And it does make sense because there are studies to show that two people can be is coexist at the same time and induced to the same disease, and one person not get it and the other person get it. You know what I mean? So, what is the determining factor? What is the shifting kind of modulations that make one person get sick and not another? So, but again, Louis Pasteur is claimed to have stolen some of Bisham's work. So, and this is the 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. So, this is kind of something that obviously must be the thing of the day. If you saw somebody with an idea, you snatched it and then put your name on it and said, this is me. Seemed like that was the thing to do. But
Well, we couldn't have
um
patents anyway at that time.
but oh wait, no. Tesla has 300.
No, I'm talking about black people.
Oh no, we wouldn't even think about a patent. We was thinking about getting paid and getting the meal like we somewhat do today, right?
Yeah.
But um yeah, patent, and it's crazy. 300. There's that number again, right? Straight up. I was like, dang, even the number of patents he got patent was 300. So Sebek, man, right, was working with this guy, right? Big time. So, um, the other thing is when he actually moved to America, he was in his Jupiter Dasha, um, in 1880s, right? He moved and he was in a Jupiter Dasha. Jupiter's in a 12th conjunct Rahu, which, me and the brother definitely conferred that, that period can create a whole move to another country, foreign travel, right?
Hmm.
That fits perfectly in line with his ascendant. And then that is so much of a karmic kind of connection because once he comes here, the next moves from that point on, right? Basically, you're in that kind of Rahu K2 axis, you know, that it creates that karmic pattern to where, Jupiter being in the 12th, and 12th house is a house of imagination, right? Ideas, dreams, concepts. Sixth house is work. And he applied whatever work he applied, right, was aspected from that Jupiterian 12th house. So the knowledge that this man had was pretty far reaching. But there's some things that surprised me about Tesla, that I thought it was a little odd. He was like, there's no afterlife. Straight up. One of the things he would say is that when you pass, that's it. Like this physical body, that's it. The other thing was quite interesting. He said electricity has nothing to do with electrons. I was like, whoa. Now that's a statement coming from a man that deals with electricity.
Hmm.
Um, he did come up with a kind of idea that atoms are composed of smaller particles, and even like the electrons and all those are composed of even smaller particles. So he kind of was already on the kind of quantum theory kind of mindset before it took off, but he did disagree with Einstein, which was another thing I found quite interesting, right? That he disagreed with Einstein's theory of relativity, and he said curve space doesn't curve because there's nothing to curve. He said he could produce information that would prove what gravity truly is. I'm like, I wish the man had a little bit more time so he could at least prove some of the things that he says because, you know, uh, quantum physics, is quite a field of discovery that, it shows that space seems to be curved, right? That time is not a constant.
Hmm.
So, um, you know, it's just interesting to show that a man that has so much interaction with forces of nature would say such a statements: no afterlife, no reincarnation, time and space like aren't kind of merged together. In other words, time doesn't depend on space and the curvature of it. So just things I thought were interesting for a man of intellect of his nature. But again, here's the thing: it does make somewhat sense because remember, Sebek is good with certain ideas, certain
Yeah.
concepts, but certain concepts escape, right? That kind of mindset that deals in, certain levels of logic. So it does make
Yeah.
a lot of sense when we calculate it from that perspective that it would,
Logical,
you
but not
know what I mean?
necessarily true.
Unnecessarily true. Best stated, right? Best stated. So definitely, yeah, definitely, definitely. That was those are interesting things that I really I shocked me. But here's the thing I want you all to keep in mind, right? Yes, Mercury is at 6 degrees. Remember, I read the degree, right? We talked about the degree. But the thing to keep in mind is the nakshatra that it's in. Ardra is the nakshatra or asterism or portion of Gemini that deals in storms, right? That deals in electrical thought processes. And think about it, right? Those electrical thought processes with the planet of Mercury, which is the planet of ideation, communication, information, right? Experimentation, all those brain storms, right? Brain, Mercury, storms, Ardra, right? That created these different ideas. And Punarvasu is one that keeps doing it over and what? Over and what? Over
Over
again.
again. Yeah.
The chart, you couldn't get it with Cancer ascendant. I mean, a Cancer ascendant with all those planets in Cancer. It doesn't fit at all. So, big up to Tesla, right? For, giving us the opportunity to experience some setback, right? On this plane in full force. Um, his chart is a testament to show the power of the right placements, right? It'd be great if we had a confirmed right time. I would say that this is a solid time, but it might be some wiggle room, right? Might be some
Yeah.
wiggle room. And I would even say, yeah, it might be here's the thing about time, right? It's 0001. If it goes back any time before, it puts him the date that his day of birth is before, meaning that he's born the 9th, not the 10th. So we can scrap that because we know he was born on the 10th. And the only thing that I would nudge to say is because the pada that he's in, and pada meaning the portion of the nakshatra that he's aligned with, there's 4 portions. Ashwini, right, has at the very end of that particular nakshatra Cancer as the pada. If I were to venture to adjust the time, it would probably be to actually move it back to where that pada would be Gemini, but it wouldn't work because it would put him the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Follow? Right? Because that Gemini would then make perfect sense. But here's the kicker, right? When it goes to, it would have to be Cancer or moving forward, not back. Because remember, that will put him at the previous day. So that's why you see when you're doing astrology, you can see certain things that it just can't be. It can't go back because he would be day. You see what I mean? It would be the day
Mm-hmm.
before, not unless he was born the 9th and then they recorded it right at midnight. That can happen. That can happen, right? But usually it would be the day it would have said he was born the day before, right? So, you know what I mean? And then you got to consider the time, the year. This 1858. I don't know about record keeping, right? But, you know, computers weren't in play then. So it could have been, a memory lapse. There's just so many things that could go wrong with it. But let's just say, for all intents and purposes, if we move him back 1 minute, right, he's going to go back into the previous day. So we move forward with the time. Because I would say if it were to be adjusted, it'd probably be adjusted with the Navamsha looking at it and putting it in that gym, but that doesn't work. So he moves forward with that particular time, it could move forward a little bit further. It can move a little bit further forward, just a little. In fact, it may be maybe 2 or 3 minutes forward. Not much, but when you look at it, it's a fairly decent time. Fairly decent time, especially considering that K2 Rahu K2 axis, because one of the things that we would recognize is that, let's say, for example, was Taurus ascendant, he'd be a lot better with money. They stated that he actually lived from hotel to hotel to hotel during his Mercury dasha. Right? And Mercury, of course, moving, right, is Mercury. Third house, third rules the third house. And it also rules the sixth house, and the sixth house is house of what? Debt.
Good.
Right? Debt. Straight up. The man died in debt, meaning that they said literally he would move from hotel to hotel to hotel and never paid a bill. They'd say he died alone in a hotel room. He put out "Do Not Disturb" sign on his door. Right. With relationships, regarding relationships, one of the things I saw it was interesting that he said that his acumen, the power of his intellect and his acumen, was because he was chaste, because he didn't have sex. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
You know what I mean? He recognized the innate, the inherent understanding that sexual energy is tied to mental capacity. Right? In Chinese medicine.
It's a guy. I mean, if I mean, most men have had experiences with that in some capacity. Not every, you know what I mean? Like, you know, from some level that you notice, like, you know, if I do this like this, then I can get some more stuff done or whatnot.
Right. Right.
You know.
Right. And
most people
Chinese
ignore
medicine. But yeah, they're right. That's what I'm saying. That intuition, you know, leaning into that law. That's a law. You know what I mean? That's a rule. You know, if I do this, cause and effect. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And applying it and living by it. And I mean, that Mercury energy had so much of that. You know, one of the things that you learn in Jyotish is that if you want to control sexual energies, let me ask you this: what gem do you think you wear? What
to
gemstone?
Control it?
Control sexual energies.
Maybe one of the Saturn ruled ones. You could do it with. But go ahead.
Emerald. Cut sexual energy in half. Boom. Emerald. Green stones.
Mercury.
With Mercury. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It reduces your sexual energy. Right. If you're trying to reproduce, right. If you have ailments, right. If you have low sperm count, right. Or if a woman has issues with her ovaries or fluid, you don't wear any type of Mercury ruled gemstones. Right. Because it cuts the chi in half. Right. Literally, it bottles it and funnels it into the nervous system for all intents and purposes. Right. Called Pana. Pana is emerald. Right. You never want to wear emerald if you're trying to get, not unless that's your gemstone. Right. Sometimes you can get away with it. Right. But, you know, if you're trying to literally let's say you want to turn someone into a sexual partner, into a friend, or someone that likes you into a friend, give them green items or things that deal with like Mercury type stuff. It reduces the sexual energy. It levels it. What color do you think you do wear, or what gemstone do you think do wear when you want to increase sexual energy?
Red diamonds.
Diamonds could be one, but coral or any type of Marshall gemstone will increase the passion.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you never wear red and green together. Exactly. Yeah. Red coral. Exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. but you never wear red coral and pana or green or emerald at the same time. It's a rule, right? It'll make you sick, right? Because the energy's trying to cut off and cut on, right? So just a little sidebar, right? That sexual energy, right, with Mercury, right, it doesn't funnel as it should. Mars is the best planet for it because it's like metal, it's iron, right? Energy flows through it. But Mercury, right, it like diffuses it, right? It takes it and makes it minutia. It puts dots and I's and T's on it, right? It just makes it to where it doesn't flow with force. So it
Well,
would make sense that. Go ahead.
it's a neutered planet.
Thank you. Right? It's neutered. You got it. And it neuters you. Right? Right. Gives you a eunuch effect. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, little gemstone before we even get to the court, right? Because we're going to be talking about that this season, right? That's one of the classes, one of the podcasts we'll be having. So, he died alone, right? You know, relationships wasn't his forte. He said, he was awkward. Said women were more advanced, right? Something a setback kind of mentality would say because they only see things in very small, pockets. Very brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I mean, remember he's the sixth degree of Gemini. It was the most brilliant degree of all the whole zodiac, but brilliance in the sense of mercurial type things, right? So, you know, this man's chart, I mean, all day. Mercury in Ardra, the planet that is at that sixth degree, because it could be at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and still be in Ardra. But it's in Ardra and it's at the degree, which really just explodes all of the rest of that chart. So, that's really the linchpin of where all these things come in is Mercury at that sixth degree in Ardra. Everything else funnels into that. Everything. Yeah.
Into it.
Everything. Everything funnels into that. Interesting, right? But he dies in the Venus Dasha. And Venus does rule the seventh and the second, and those are definitely killer houses. Right? And they kill you when you're in old age. Killer houses don't kill you when you're young. Not usually, it can. But usually if it's young, it's not seventh or second house. Yeah. Die broke, right? Sixth house stuff. Die broke. They confiscated his stuff. Right? So, this fits 100% exactly.
Indeed, man. Indeed, yeah, definitely. Again, man, shout out to the Patreon for recommending the show because definitely an interesting chart. Like Ross said, it's I haven't come across a chart with just that Mercury just off the chain like that, like, and then you see the person behind it, it's like, well, makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So definitely shout out to that, and shout out to everybody in the chat right now, and everybody watching the stream right now, man. Thank you all for tuning in for sure. So it was another great episode. Rod, you had anything you wanted to say before we officially get up out of this thing?
No, just stay tuned. Like I said, this website is going to be really phenomenal. I know I've been speaking on it for a while. It's just some bugs I had to get worked out of, and dealing with people from other countries, other cultures, language barriers, concepts, ideas. It takes time sometimes, and so it's long overdue. But it will be worth the wait. There's going to be videos, information, newsletters, links, books for you to go research. If you want a book list, I'm gonna put a book list on there for you. I'll have a monthly book, right? That you can kind of, might be able to do a book review, a monthly book review. So there's gonna be some things, right? They're really gonna be nice tools for those of you that are in this science and in this vein. You're gonna definitely appreciate. So by July 6th, hopefully we should be the drop deadline. But if it happens any sooner or any earlier, y'all will be first to know.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So, as always, thank you all for tuning in. We will be back next week with another great episode. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, send this to all your people and stuff like that, so we can take this thing to where it need to be. And, without further ado, we out. Peace.
Peace.